So today we're going to talk about draining your water down for winter. So tonight the weather forecast says it's going to freeze. So I thought now would be a good opportunity to show you what I do to protect my van so that I'm preventing water leaks. So in your own house, if you've got an outside tap, they always say turn off the feed to the water tap just to stop it freezing, because if it freezes, the ice is bigger than the water, so as something freezes it expands and it's going to put stress on those joints, and what you don't really want is some pipe work in your van to freeze up and expand and then cause a leak for next time you use the van. So the idea really is to drain the water out of the van, make sure that there's nothing in there to actually freeze in the first place. So let's get to it. So the first bit that we need to do is we need to drain down the wastewater and the fresh water. Obviously that means going outside, so I'll see you out there. I still haven't fixed these valves, so I'm still using a spanner to turn mine on and off. So this is the wastewater. While this is draining down, these, I've shown you before in other videos, but these collapse hoses, they're great. They collapse down, as the name suggests, save you loads of space, and you can just keep a bunch of them in a bag, and it just means you've got enough hose to get to wherever you need to get to. I don't know where I'd be without them now. I'll leave a link to these hoses in the description. Okay, so the waste is almost done. Okay, so I'll turn that off and then we'll move across to the fresh. So we'll drop the fresh as well. That's on this side. Right, that might take a while because I think it's quite full. Just realised I made a bit of a schoolboy error. So basically the taps are going to have water in them. So we could do with running the taps and trying to get as much water out of them as possible. So we'll run them until the pump sounds like it's not able to pump anything else. So you'll know how your pump normally sounds when you got your tap running. So we'll run the taps until there's nothing coming out and until the pump starts sounding different. And then hopefully we've got as much water out of the system as we can. The other thing we need to do is drain down the boiler, and that's the most important bit because you really don't want the boiler freezing. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. But once we've drained these taps down, the schoolboy error is we've already emptied the waste, so we're probably going to have to empty it again. Obviously there won't be a great deal in there, but we just want to get as much out as we can really. Now we need to empty cold, but we also need to empty warm. So I've put it somewhere in the middle. If you just have it on cold, you're going to potentially have a hot water feed that's full of water. So I've put it in the middle somewhere there, this mixer tap. That's almost empty, isn't it? That's almost there. That sounds like it's coming out the boiler. So what we could probably do with doing is draining down the boiler. So when we drain down the boiler, there isn't a convenient place for that to drain out to, so it is literally going to just throw it on the floor underneath the back of the van. So we just need to be aware of that. Now obviously if you've just had the boiler on, if it has been hot, if you've got hot water in the boiler, then the water that comes out of the bottom of the boiler is going to be hot. So you might want to just bear that in mind. If you intend to catch it with a bucket, just bear in mind that you might get splashed with very, very hot water. I think I'm just going to let mine go out onto the floor. It's on my own driveway. It's going to run off into the drain anyway, so I'm just going to do that So in mine, this is a Swift Escape 674, 2017. So my boiler is under this corner, so I just need to remove these cushions, and then there's a wooden plate under here, so, and then I'll show you what's in there. Okay, so the important thing to note is this yellow tag here. So we're going to need to stand that peg up in a vertical position. At the moment it's lying down in a horizontal position, so I'm just going to pull that up. So see if I can show you while I'm doing it. So now it's standing up in the air like that, and now the water is draining under the van like so. Okay, so there's nothing left there, but I'm going to leave this tap open, and I'm going to leave it in the middle position. So somewhere halfway between hot and cold, I'm going to leave that open so that there's no airlock keeping any water in. So hopefully it'll either, well, it would either come out here now that the pump's running, but I'm going to turn the pump off in a second, or because there's no vacuum because the boiler vent is open, I would hope that the water will naturally find its way out there. But there's another tap we need to do yet, so that's in the bathroom. So let's see if there's anything here. Again, there's nothing coming out, the pump's not able to push anything up to here, but I'm going to leave the tap open halfway between, so I'll just leave that there. So we've emptied the boiler, we've emptied the kitchen tap, we've emptied the bathroom tap, and we've tried the flush. The pump is running and it sounds dry, so I think we're about ready to turn that off. We've also emptied the freshwater tank, and we've emptied the waste, but obviously we need to empty the waste again because my schoolboy error, I forgot to do that tap before I did the waste, so we'll do that again, and then that should be all of the water out of the system. Hang on a minute, it's me, I'm back from the future. He's an idiot because he's not told you about the shower, so let's do the shower, because otherwise if that freezes, you've had it. The shower head's going to break or the tap's going to break, but you need to not forget the shower. So let's have a look. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to unscrew that bit there so that this is just a hose, and then I'm going to turn this tap on so it's halfway from hot and cold, but turn it on. So, and then leave that pipe on the floor. So take your shower, it's going to get you wet. Take your shower head off, put your shower head in the sink, let your shower head hose out, take the little washer off so you don't lose it, and then literally we're just going to put this in the shower tray at the bottom near the plug hole, and just let it drain if it needs to. So that's down on the floor, and we've left the tap on and halfway between hot and cold. Job done. So now the other thing we need to turn our attention to is what's happening inside the van while we're not here over the winter. There's lots of cupboards here, and what we really need to do is get as much airflow around here as possible. We don't want pockets of stale air, so we want to basically open these cupboards and just leave them open. So we'll take the cushions off the benches, we'll let air flow through the benches, we'll keep the cupboards open as much as we can. We're also going to lower the drop down bed, because we don't want any moisture that's in the bedding to keep a bit of moisture against the ceiling. So we need that away from the ceiling so we're not growing mould on the ceiling, etc. And it might even be worth bringing the bedding into the house. If you've got space to keep it in the house, that would be a good idea. We'll also leave the fridge open. We don't want the fridge shut. We'll also leave the freezer door open. So that again, we don't want any stale air within things like that. So, like I said earlier, I'm going to drop the bed. I want to make sure there's a gap. Even if I don't leave the quilt on there, I still want to make sure that there's a gap. So I'm going to drop this down so that there's a good sized gap. Little bit of air movement, if there is any, is going to be a good thing. So, yeah. So what else do we need to do? There's going to be quite a few things in here which are perishable. Some things, like tinned things, you could probably leave in here over the winter, but it's up to you. It's just worth thinking about. Go through your food cupboard, have a look, see if there's anything in there that you don't really want to get cold, damp maybe. Have a look through your cupboards, make sure you're not leaving anything in here that didn't want to be in here. Bottles of water, things like that, just don't leave those, because obviously bottles of water, they're going to get bigger if they freeze. You don't want them splitting and then leaking on your floor. Let's leave the bathroom door open, so there's plenty of space there. Obviously, like I said, I'm going to leave the fridge open. So maybe just, depending on how your van's parked, you might find that the doors want to close. So I've just wedged my fridge with the bathroom door, so they'll both be open. And again, there's a cupboard in here, so may as well keep that one open. There is a choice that you can make depending on where you park the van. If you park the van at home and you've got the luxury of being able to provide it with electric hookup, one of the things that you can do, and I have done, rather than draining everything down, sometimes I like to use the van during the winter, and so I'll, instead of draining everything down, put an oil-filled radiator in here. I'll put a link to one similar to the one I've got. I'll put it in the description. But basically, I just put an oil-filled radiator in here, put it on low, just to keep the temperature a little bit higher than zero. The freshwater tank is inside the van, so that shouldn't freeze. If the radiator is somewhere near it, that shouldn't be a problem. I would generally drain the waste down, so that that's not going to be a problem. That is outside. But the fresh I would sometimes keep if I'm going to be popping out quite regularly with the van. So yeah, you can either drain everything down and make it good for the winter on its own, or you can put a radiator in here, just keep the temperature just up a little bit, just so that it doesn't get damp and doesn't freeze inside the van. Either of those works. Obviously there's an energy consumption issue with the radiator, but there doesn't seem to be a right or a wrong answer to that. I may do another video like this. I'm sure there's some things that I've forgotten. If there's some things that you do with your van that you want to pass your experience on to maybe new motorhomers, maybe you could put some details in the comments, ideas that I can pick up on and maybe include in a future video. So yeah, please feel free to use the comments below. Apart from that, if you've not seen the other videos on the channel, please go and have a look at those. Maybe subscribe to the channel and give us a like. That'd be great. It really helps the channel. Thanks ever so much. I'll see you in the next one.